During the war between Ukraine and Russia, we have witnessed countless tank battles. These clashes are not just displays of military power, but also reveal critical strategic moves that can shape the course of the war. In this video, we will take a closer look at some of the most striking recent tank engagements and examine the tactics used on the battlefield in detail. Two Russian tanks advance in the field, while a Ukrainian Leopard tank observes them from a distance. Once it finds an advantageous firing position, it stops and takes aim. The first shot is a direct hit. Moments later, the second round finds its mark and the attack is stopped. When the crew learns that two Russian tanks are advancing a few kilometers away, they move to intercept without hesitation. When the tank comes within range, there's about 1.2 kilometers between them and the enemy. They aim the gun and fire. The accurate shot forces the enemy to pull back, a truly rare moment, a real tank duel. In such moments, courage and skill usually come to the forefront. Ukrainian tanks set unexpected ambushes for their enemy. Two Ukrainian tanks take position with the help of a drone. They wait for the Russian tanks to enter their firing line. The first shot is fired, then comes the second. The third shell also finds its target. The tank starts to burn. One enemy soldier survives and manages to escape. The Russian tank was advancing but soon became defenseless. The Ukrainian tank waited for the right moment, struck, and destroyed the Russian tank, forcing the enemy to retreat. Russian forces fired an anti-tank missile to stop the Ukrainians, but the missile fell short and hit the ground. The mission is accomplished and the tank pulls back. The Russian anti-tank team launches another missile, but this time it gets stuck in a tree. A third attack attempt also fails. The Ukrainian tank retreats safely. Russian forces targeted and hit a Ukrainian tank during a clash. The tank caught fire, but unlike what Russian crews often do, the Ukrainian crew did not abandon the vehicle. One of the crew members took a huge risk, got out of the tank, and checked the damage. He quickly grabbed a fire extinguisher and managed to put out the flames. Thanks to this, the tank returned to base and was later repaired. This brave move saved both the vehicle and the remaining crew. On the other hand, we have footage of another remarkable tank battle. At the edge of a village, a Russian tank and a Ukrainian tank face off. The Russian tank opens fire, but the shell misses its target. In response, the Ukrainian tank fires back and scores a direct hit. The impact causes the Russian tank to explode instantly and be completely destroyed. Afterwards, the Ukrainian tank leaves the area. Now, let's look at the next footage. This might be one of the most striking tank duels of the entire war. One tank advances while the other lies in ambush. When the right moment comes, the second tank suddenly fires and hits the first tank with a heavy blow. As a result, the first tank is destroyed. Nowadays, the smartest tactic usually works like this. A tank takes position in bushes or wooded areas, opens fire, and quickly retreats. While pulling back, it keeps its turret pointed at the enemy, staying ready to fire again. It can also hide itself with smoke while retreating. In fact, direct tank-to-tank clashes between Russian and Ukrainian forces don't happen very often because tank duels are usually not very effective. Instead, anti-tank missiles like the Ukrainian-made Stugna produce much better results. Before the war, Ukraine began modernizing its fleet of T-64, T-72, and T-80 tanks using domestic capabilities by adding reactive armor systems, next-generation fire control equipment, and night vision devices to these old Soviet tanks. Ukrainian armored units became more resilient against Russian armored forces. Moreover, the Leopard 2 and Abrams M1A1 tanks received from the West have shifted the balance on the battlefield in Ukraine's favor. Compared to Russian tanks, these Western models are equipped with far superior optical systems, higher accuracy, and thicker armor protection. For example, Leopard 2 tanks, with their thermal cameras providing a wide field of view, can detect and destroy targets even during night operations. The Abrams tanks, on the other hand, with their powerful engines and advanced electronics, can maneuver quickly across various terrains and adapt to complex offensive plans. Tanks play a critical role, especially on the Donbas and Zaporizhia fronts. The vast open farmland in these regions allows tanks to carry out rapid maneuvers and launch sudden strikes on enemy lines. The Ukrainian army generally deploys tanks in small but highly effective units. These units rely on drones to monitor enemy positions in real time, move into suitable firing positions, strike their targets, and quickly relocate. This makes it much harder for Russian forces to respond with counter-artillery fire. Such tactics have reshaped the classic idea of tank duels into a modern style of mobile, flexible, hit-and-run warfare. In the early months of the war, Russia aimed to advance quickly into Ukrainian cities with its T-72 and T-80 tanks. However, the insufficient armor thickness and weak internal design of these tanks turned them into easy targets on the battlefield. The turret design of Russian tanks often leads to catastrophic explosions when the internal ammunition ignites, destroying the entire tank. Because of this vulnerability, Western-made Javelin missiles and Ukraine's domestically produced Stugna anti-tank systems have been able to neutralize Russian tanks with relative ease. Ukrainian soldiers usually coordinate these missiles with drones. A reconnaissance drone marks the target, the anti-tank team takes position, and the strike is carried out. This system has dealt a heavy blow to the conventional armored warfare tactics used by Russian forces.